Today we are going to be creating a show hide toggle event for a password field that works on multiple passwords. Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of DevDrawer. Today we're going to be going over how to show and hide passwords whenever you are creating an account or you're requesting information of some sort in your application that requires a password. Most people like to be able to see it as they type it in, but they also want to be able to hide it if they're in a public place. So today we're just going to be building up the code that is required to show and hide a password. It's very simple. So I'll show you how to do it in a few different instances using a password class. So let's go ahead and get started with our general HTML5. Okay, so let's just call this show hide password. All right, so now we are showing and hiding our password. I'm going to go ahead and create a div class main, and then inside of this, actually let me go live so we can see what we're doing as we're doing it. So inside of this main, I want to do an h1, and I'm gonna just label this as show hide, and then an h2, your form passwords. Okay, just to start building up the structure of what we're wanting to do. So first thing I'm gonna do is wrap our passwords in a container, because the container is going to control the class, and then the individual items of that will be something that's used inside of JavaScript. So let's do our first one. We're just going to call it password container. And then inside of this, we're going to create two inputs. So div, the class is going to be password. And then we also want to give it an ID. Let's just say password for now and make that ×2. So let's give this an ID of password 1 and password 2, just so I can show you multiple ways to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and expand both of these out, and I'm gonna do input. We don't really need to have a class for that, but we are gonna make it where it's a password type. And then let's do our value equals, say password 1. And then our placeholder. So our placeholder is just going to be enter your password 1 in this instance. So now let's go in here and we're going to change this to 2 and this to 2. Okay, so now we have our two passwords, and I'm going to go ahead and remove the value from here so that we can see it kind of happen in real time. So we're going to be able to see it on like load as well as happening in real time. So let me reset the zoom on that so it's a little bit bigger. Let's go ahead and create our SAS. So we're going to create a new folder called SAS, and then inside of this a new file called style.scss. So inside of this SCSS, I'm going to just create a few variables. First, I want to import Google Fonts. We're going to be using Open Sans for this project. I'm going to create a variable called font family, and then this one is just going to be Open Sans serif. Okay, and then let's set our font size as well to 16 pixels. And I'm going to set up a primary color variable as well so that we can use that throughout the website. And I'm just going to use a blue color that I always use. Okay, so first thing we want to do is set up our body. And then our body, we're just going to make the font size be equal to the font size variable that we created. And then the font family is going to be the same thing. So font family, and for this, it's just going to be the only thing on this entire page is the password form, no submission or anything like that, so no validation, just the password form, so you can show and hide. So I'm just going to make this 100% width, and let's just make it a min height of 100% as well. And then let's give it a background color and make this primary color. And let me go ahead and do this watch Sass. So it's building our CSS, which means I also need to come over here and do link rel equals style sheet. And then this is going to be, oh, I cannot remember how to do that. I'm completely blanking on how to do a style sheet ref. Href, there we go. Href. And we're going to do CSS, link it to our style min. There we go. So we can kind of see the changes as we're doing them. Okay, now back to this. Let's set up the padding to be 0, margin, make that 0 as well. And then let's start coding the main class that we created. Let me decrease some of this so we can see it a little bit better. Okay, so for the main, I'm just going to, again, it's going to be the only thing on here, so I'm going to do a position absolute. And let's just make it top 50%, left 50%, and then let's just center it. So transform, translate, and we're going to make it negative 50% and negative 50%. All right, so now we get it all centered up. And let's go ahead and set a width to this box to be 50% as well. Now our H1, H2s, we're going to make them be text align center. Again, this isn't necessarily all the code that you need for what I'm doing or what you're going to be doing when you implement this. This is just simply for the tutorial, so you can fast forward, you know, a few minutes if you want to until I start actually working in the password container. So margin 0. Padding 0. Let's just give them a white color. Okay. All right, so we're getting there. So let's do our password container now, because that's what we have our passwords wrapped in. So our password container in this instance is just going to be a like a white box. So let's give it a margin top so it kind of pushes down from the header. Let's set a background color. Let's make that background color white. Give it some padding. Let's say 2 rem, 4 rem. And let's even give it a border radius. Okay. I'm also going to give it a box shadow. So box shadow. And let's do 15 pixels, 15 pixels. And let's make it semi-transparent. And let's just give it 0.2. Okay, that looks good. Okay, so now let's move on to our individual password class, just so we can set that up a little bit over here as well. Okay, so let's do password, margin 2 rem, 2 rem 0. Give them a little bit of spacing. And then we're going to do position relative because we are going to have an icon that comes right after it, but it's going to be kind of overlapping this box, which I'll show you in just a minute how we're going to be doing that. Actually, I think we need to add it. So let's just take this and we're going to do it in both places. So I'm just going to add a blank span. So this is going to be the icon. And we'll set all that up in just a second. So let's come back over here to our password and start coding the input first. So we're going to do input, and let's set the width to be a calculated value of 100% minus 24 pixels plus 1 rem. Okay, so I did underscore and make that a plus. Okay, so now we have our 1 rem because we're going to be accounting for the padding that is around it, which is going to be 1 rem. All right, there we go. And then the 24 pixels is going to be the right side where the icon, the span, is actually going to kind of overlap into it. So I just wanted to expand it out a little bit so that we can see that. And it'll all make sense whenever I go into it a little bit more. So let's do border 0. Okay, and then with the border being 0, I'm going to do a border radius. And let's make this 5 pixels as well. And then this, we're going to make the background color of it what actually gives the box its color. So let's do something like C2, so it's a little bit darker than the white. That's a lot darker than the white. Let's do, I didn't mean to do that. Let's do F8. There we go. Okay, so now let's give it, let's not give it a border of 0 pixels because I want it to stand out a little bit more. So I'm going to do a border 1 pixel solid and then the C2. Okay. All right, there we go. That'll help us stand out a little bit. Let's do our font family. We're going to make this equal to font family again. And then same thing with our font size. So font family, font size. And let's make it the color just be a lighter or darker black color. Okay. Let's also go ahead and do focus. And this is going to be outline none because I don't want that dark box to appear around it when we click on it. There we go. Let's also change the placeholder text as well. So and placeholder, change this color and let's just make it a black that has 75% opacity. Okay. Okay, so now we have our input done. So let's do something for our span. And so you can see this, I'm going to do a border 1 pixel solid, and let's just make it a black solid. So right now you can kind of see it's lining up on the side over here. What we wanted to do is have the icon that kind of shows up over here. So in order to do that, let's set a position of absolute. And then we're going to do right 20 pixels. Let's do top 50%. And then since we have the 24 pixels set up over here, we're going to do our width 24 pixels and our height also 24 pixels. All right, so now let's do our transform translate. And we want to, we just want to do the translate Y, so we're going to make it go negative 50%. Okay, so that's kind of the positioning that I want to have on it. So right now, you know, there's going to be an icon here. That icon, I have it already loaded over here inside of this. Well, I thought I did. Okay, I'll have to move it over, but there's a show and hide SVG that I'm going to load. You can use an icon font if you want to, but I'm not. So this is actually going to be completely standalone, I guess. But one thing I want to do is whenever you hover over it, I want to show the pointer. So we just need to make sure that it's showing the pointer. So let's do cursor pointer. And let me get those images copied over. Don't know why they did not copy over. So bear with me just a moment. Okay, now we should have our images. There we go, show and hide. So for this, by default, I want it to be the background. It's going to be URL, and it's going to point to image, and show. Okay, cool. So now let's remove this border. So now we have our show icons, which currently don't do anything. So we need to create our CSS. So I'm going to create a new file or a new folder, JS. And then inside of this folder, I'm going to create a new file. It's going to be called password.js. So inside of this, we're going to create a class password. And we're going to create a structure for it so that it gets passed, so we can have multiples like we have here. Let's go ahead and add this script. So script source, and it's going to be JS password JS. I want to be able to call it very easily just by instantiating this class. In order to do that, we need to pass a few fields to the constructor. So the constructor, we're essentially going to be sending over a password div, and then we're going to be using that password div to get the span as well as the input for it itself. So we're going to do this dot password div, minimize that, and then this is going to be equal to document dot query selector password div. And then this, let's create another variable called password field. So the div is what wraps the entire thing, so password here, and then we're going to create one for the field, and then we're going to create another one for the toggle. So the password field is going to be this dot password div dot query selector input. I'm going to wrap that in quotes. Okay, so this is going to be our input. So I'm going to copy this because we're essentially going to use the same thing. And then instead of input, we're going to do span, and we're going to change this to toggle. So whenever someone clicks on this toggle, we want to create an event listener. So let's come down here and do this dot toggle dot add event listener, and it's going to be a click event, and then we're going to run a function. Let's just call it show hive. So this show hide, and then let's go ahead and bind these variables to that show hide. So we're going to do bind this dot password field and this dot toggle, so that we can pass those to it. So let's create our function show hide, and we're going to do password field and toggle. So what we want it to do is, if the password field is a password, we want to show the hide background image. So let's set that if password field dot type equals password. We want it to do one thing. So for now, I'm just going to do console log password, and then we want to run an else statement, console log dot I think it's going to be just a text. Okay, so let's open this up and go to our console log here. Well, the clicking's not doing anything because we're not actually calling this. So we have it linked over here, but what we need to do is let's set up a script tag, and the only thing that we're going to need to do for it is just do new password, and then we're going to pass over that ID. So password 1 and password 2. So now if we click over here, there we go. So now it's showing password is being clicked. Okay, so now let's get back over here to what we need to modify. So if it is showing the password field as type password, we want to change it to a text. So let's do password field dot set attribute. So set attribute, and we're going to change the type to text, not test. Okay, so now if we click on this, it reveals it. Of course, it doesn't go back because now it's just calling the console. So whenever we click on this, we also want the span to change. So we're going to do toggle.style.background image, and then this is going to be equal to URL image hi.svg. Okay, so now if we click on that, it now shows the hide icon. So now we have it doing what we want it to do. So let's take this and we're going to flip it for the text. So we're going to change this back to password, and then we're going to show the SVG. So click, click. Okay. I think this is going to be a quick tutorial because this is pretty simple code. I mean, I created an entire class out of it, but you could essentially just add this part to your JavaScript and just call the fields directly. But you know, if you want to use a class that you can reuse on multiple pages without having to, you know, change or modify how you're doing it, this would probably be the best way to do it. But I think that that is probably going to do it for this tutorial. Pretty cool little code, and it's very helpful if you're wanting to give people the ability to create something and add a password to it. This way they can actually, you know, click on it and see what their password is before they hit submit or confirm or whatever it is. But I think that's going to do it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give me a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. I am coming up on my 100th video, which should be the next one, which is going to be like a 12-hour long compilation of my most viewed videos since I started the channel. So it's going to be a pretty cool little watch if you haven't subscribed and you've seen this video and you want to see the other videos that I've done. The next video that I'm going to do is going to showcase my most popular videos. So stay tuned for that one. Leave me a comment down below if you have any questions, but I think for now this is going to do it. I appreciate you watching, and I will talk to you later.